Good evening, questing novices. This is Black Pope Vice, and this is the first lecture I'm going to give in a series of lectures about various topics. If you're here to learn about the basics of magic, this lecture series is not for you. This is for more experienced users. Not to say that I'm not going to talk about what books. I'm going to talk about what books to read, so then you could be like, oh yeah, I'm going to just catch into this. But this learning process of how to get good at magic, real magic, I've been doing this for 7 years. And when I first read the Kabbalion, I was like, oh wow, this is a real book about real magic. Holy. And when I was reading it, I was like, oh yeah, magic's real, but I'm never going to get good at it. And at a certain point, I was like, wow, I guess I can do magic. I'll never get to a certain stage. And a certain stage was level 3 mental alchemy. And I was like, I'll never get to that stage before level 30. I'm 28 years old now, and I'm far beyond doing transmutations with crystals. So if you take your time and effort into studying this stuff, you're going to be good. You're going to get results. The question is, what do you want from magic? Well, that's up to you, really. But in this video, I'm going to talk about why I practice magic in modernity. And I'm going to talk a little bit about myself for a moment. I first got into magic. Wasn't because I was into magic. My best friend at the time, he had an out-of-body experience, and he told me about this, and he was like, Black Pope Vice, get on, can you tell me what to look, like what happened, like what's going on? And I said, I have no idea, but I'm going to start researching it. And for some reason, I somehow got researching Thomas Aquinas, and I found this book. Now this is Aurora Consurgens, a document attributed to Thomas Aquinas on the problem of opposites in alchemy, edited with a commentary by Marie-Louise von Franz. Marie-Louise von Franz was a disciple of Carl Jung, and in essence, this is a Jungian analysis of a recipe for the Philosopher's Stone. So the teleology that I initially got into with magic was it thrusted me right into this by chance. And if you look at your life and you think about what interesting events have happened in your life that seem more than just random, but when you think about it, you sit back and you go, has there been a narration to my life? This is what teleology means. There's an order and sequence to things that doesn't seem so random. And what am I now? I have many titles and names I would refer to myself as, but I like to use the phrase necromantic warlord. And when I look back on my life, I see that, like for instance, I was playing soldier when I was 7 at one point. And during this process, I was I was playing with younger boys. I was 7 at the time, and I realized death was serious. Like during the soldier thing, I was like, "Wow, death is so serious." And when I think about little events like that, leading to where I am now, I'm like, that kind of all makes sense. But then again, necromancers have an advantage when it comes back to regaining awareness of what they are, who they are, what is necessary to be done when they respawn or when they come into a new incarnation. And in modernity, death is such like a big mystery. And let me tell you, I have ideas about what the afterlife is like from various sources or whatever, but I can tell you that based on what I have done, because I don't have like go on astral travels. I almost one time did that during a bong rip. I went almost all the way to Orion, but then my body was like, nope. But that was when I was at UC Davis, and Davis is a very, very lovely cemetery. If you ever go to the Davis Cemetery in California, you will figure out where the portal is just by looking at the grave area, the graves, the tombstones. You can tell, you can feel it. Well, you don't have to feel it. You'll be able to look. You'll be able to say, there's this special area with lots of melancholy. But modernity like pretends like, oh, there's so many great mysteries, and that's not true at all. The people who run our society have a pretty good idea of what's going on. But that comes back to why practice magic in modernity. Well, as Nietzsche puts it, God is dead. And when I say that, this is a big problem. Not for anything in society or anything. Like, we'll talk about society in a little bit. But God is dead is a problem for you, the viewer. I mean, you're here probably for two reasons. One, you want to get really, really good at magic in really simple, easy ways. Or two, you're bored. You're so fucking bored. Your hierarchy of needs is filled. And you're no longer worrying about starving. You're no longer worrying about, where you work, or who you fuck, or whatever. You're missing a spiritual thing that only ritual can really fulfill. And modernity has a solution for this. I mean, maybe if you're a Catholic, you might find this kind of spiritual fulfillment outside of Eastern religions and such. But you might be asking, well, if magic's real, why isn't there more wizards running around and stuff? It's well, there are. There are tons of them. They just call themselves clergy. I mean, one of the reasons why I argue one of the reasons why there's not a lot of magicians running around is because it's oh, you have to, it's not like Harry Potter stuff. It's more it's trying to become a Catholic priest. Well, does anyone really want to become a Catholic priest? Well, no. I mean, it's not the most lavish and luxurious of lifestyles to live. And at the other end, it's, extremists like people like Aleister Crowley, who I will cite regularly, though I do not practice. I use his tarot, and his tarot's very good. Otherwise, I don't, practice anything that he does. Though I do think he was a prophet, and by a prophet, I mean his commentary on man's relationship to reality, to the world around him, is genius. It's brilliant. It's relevant. You should read it. But I wouldn't recommend going and practicing any of his spells. Apparently it's full of booby traps. Which comes back to the idea of why modernity and magic. Well, if you've been paying attention, you probably realize there's something profoundly wrong with our society. It's not honest, and it's evil. Now, I'm going to talk about the evil of society in another video that I'm going to talk about later. I asked a poll on Twitter, asked for questions. What do you want to hear about? Do you want to hear about why Magick and Modernity? People wanted, they voted and they wanted to hear about polytheism versus monotheism, as in the black. Apparently, a lot of people really like my essay about the black and golden solar symbolisms, about how the black sun is a collective image describing all other previous head honcho deities before Jesus Christ came and, what's the word I want to use, triumphed and regained his throne. And I'm going to talk about that in the next video, because it's a subject that's really, really profound and interesting. Now, the society we live in would be considered most evil by the classical Egyptians. Why? They believed that the purpose of a society, government, these institutions that we have today, is to educate man in spiritual awareness. We have the very opposite today. I mean, not only we're just, killing kids and, in the womb, or massive structural violence and things like that. We are actively denying faith and acting like, oh, this is just like these ancient people. They were stupid and they were superstitious. Thank God we have science to explain things. But if you really kind of pay attention to what the ancients did, they had to deal with harder conditions. They survived despite these harder conditions and having less and less to work with. And they did more. It's clear to me, the more I research what the ancients were up to, especially the ancient Egyptians, that in many ways they were more advanced, because they had to figure things out without, like, power tools or computers or steam power. They had to figure these things out without such things. So they were very clever. I mean, the ancient Egyptians had light bulbs. I mean, they were massive. They were probably like 10 feet long. But they still had this technology. These people were smart. And when we look at society around us, I mean, there's never been more information available. And not only information, I mean, I have a book right here about the Philosopher's Stone I found at a junior college library. I bought this, but when I first found it, it was a junior college library. We have more powerful texts available to us. And crystals. I mean, if you could you imagine, like, you know how much this piece right here costs? Like $10 if I was to buy it in a store. Maybe $7, maybe $5. You know, something like this would have been astronomical in value to someone, the average person living 500 years ago. Or even in ancient Egyptian times, when the magic culture was prevalent. It was everywhere. There was no separation from the secular society, as in, like, normal day-to-day activities, life, science at the time, and medicine and religion. These things were prevalent, yet something like this would have never been easily available to the average person. Now, you just go on Amazon and you buy a pound of them for, like, $20. You have to tumble them, but, the tumbler ain't that much, and you can do it in a few hours. You get something nice. And so, in many ways, as much as there's problems with doing magic in the modern world, it's never been easier. I mean, this is probably the easiest Kali Yuga. What is Kali Yuga? It's a spiritual dark age. And we're approaching Zenith. What is Zenith? Imagine the beginning of end of reality, as in the linear flow of time. Zenith is the high peak, is the high point. And we're approaching that. That's going to be a subject in another video, but as I said, why Magick and Modernity? Well, as I alluded to earlier, the modern world's evil and it's not transparent. As a famous capitalist saying says, let the buyer beware. It's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. That's not something a normal, functional society should be saying to its people. Let the buyer beware. Like, really? You mean we can't trust each other enough to be like, hey, this is safe to eat, this isn't safe to eat, this is good medicine, this is bad medicine. We have to be like, oh, well, it's on the point of the consumer. It's the responsibility of the consumer to deal with, you know, looking out for himself. Like, that's not the point of the FDA or any other watchdog organization. No, let the buyer beware. And I'm sure if you stumbled across this video, or if you're intentionally seeking it, you probably have radical distrust in the system. And I don't blame you. I don't. I do not. They're killing our doctor. They're killing our alternative healers. And, you know, companies that make, you know, AIDS medicine for Africans, they don't give a fuck about their clients in Africa. They don't give a shit. They're covering up exactly what Lyme's disease is. And Hillary Clinton is involved in that cover-up. And yeah, when I first found out about that, because I've been trying to cure or treat Lyme's disease with alternative medicine for a while, and then I found out Hillary Clinton's involved, and I was like, of course Hillary Clinton is involved in the PR spin of the destruction of Plum Island bioweapons lab facility. It's terrible. So, back to why Magick and Modernity. Well, you're probably going to have to figure out at some point, you know, the only one who's really going to be accountable to healing you is you, because you can't trust your doctor. Because even if he's a good guy, like he's an honest, ethical person, he's got a bunch of bullshit he's drawing off of. I mean, we've been told for our entire lives that the brain is the center of consciousness. Yet the ancient Egyptians didn't think the fucking brain was that important at all. They didn't. And we know about this for various reasons, but we know this based off the mummification process, about how they just had utter dismay for the brain. And when we look at more recent experiments with slime solving problems, slime doesn't have a central nervous system. It's capable of doing logic. And plants learn. They don't have brains. So where is this cognition coming from? As I said, you are going to have to figure this out. But luckily, there are people like me who are going to help you along the way. But we are in a Kali Yuga, so there's a lot of assholes out there, and they believe in this stuff. I mean, you might have heard of Aleister Crowley before, you might not have heard of Aleister Crowley. Aleister Crowley was by far the most famous magician to exist in the past 100 years. And there are people who defend him, saying, he didn't really do that much evil stuff. But who cares? That's not what's important. People who are really into Aleister Crowley today are fucking evil. These are evil people. They fucking do actual human sacrifice. They do crazy things. So, why Magick and Modernity? Well, this is the stuff that people who are in charge of you, who have tens and hundreds of millions of dollars, believe in. So why not learn about Magick and Modernity? It's never been easier to get access to cheap goods, whether it be books with rare treatises in them, crystals. I mean, they discover new crystals all the time. Merlinite is amazing. Apatite is amazing. Lepidolite is amazing. Rutilated quartz is amazing. I got this new one recently. It's called Golden Hero Quartz. It's amazing. You know, there's Labradorite. Amazing. You know, these things. And you have videos. And you have people who are going to talk to you and basically, you know, hold your hand through this process, which, you know, most people who've ever learned magic ever never had. I mean, if you look at the runic poems that we have from antiquity, that might have been the only things that, tools that some magic users, from shamans, ever had, other than a teacher holding their hand. And the teacher wasn't really like holding their hand, it was like shoving them off a cliff and saying, fly, fly, fly. So, why Magick and Modernity? Well, you have to be accountable for yourself, not just like for philosophical reasons, like you're bored and you need to find purpose or anything, but you need to be aware of your health, because you can heal yourself in ways that the doctors say is just impossible. Like, I've been experimenting with regeneration of brain tissue for years now in a blind study, and I'm convinced it works. But if you talk to doctors, they say you can't regenerate brain tissue. Or if you talk to someone who's in the alternative health field, or someone who's interested in that stuff, they're like, oh, well, you have to eat psilocybin mushrooms. It's like, dude, you don't have to do that stuff. You just have to expose yourself to the right frequencies. And you can do that with crystals and rune stabs. But we'll talk more about regeneration of brain tissue later. So besides you're being bored and trying to find fulfillment and taking care of yourself, but you need to be on the defense against the enemy, and the enemy is all around you. People, I'm sure some of you people have heard in your lifetime that TV is evil. It is. TV is totally fucking... You gotta be careful what you look at, because there's cursed images. Like, in Hinduism, it's called darsana. And when you make eye contact with something, you're engaging in this quantum feedback loop. And by doing that, you can gain blessings or curses from a holy image, like a deity, or a holy man. You know, I produce a darsana link. I've got that, so, like, looking at me could bless or curse you, but there's just tons of people on TV all the time. You change channels, commercial, TV show, whatever. You don't know who these fucking people are, and you're exposing yourself to their eyes. You're exposing them to their logos, their symbolism. That's polluting your mind. It's polluting your subconscious. And shows like Ghost Hunters and things like that, you have no idea what they're doing, what kind of entities they're really interacting with. And I'm not saying all entities are evil, like all spirits are evil and things like that. And not all entities have this ability. But demons are beyond time. And they're real, though they might not be visible to you because you haven't really trained your cognitive abilities regarding sight. But they can see you. You might not be able to see them, but that doesn't mean the Darsana isn't being affected. And as I said, demons are beyond time. So imagine you're watching a rerun of a TV show that's about ghost hunters or whatever, and there's a demon in a particular episode, as opposed to a spirit, like a ghost or a fairy or whatever. The demon's going to jump out of the TV and get into your subconscious. And this can happen in reruns, so it doesn't have to be a live recent episode. And remember, these shows, there's a space between when they record it and edit it and they finally put it on TV. They said demons are beyond time. And when I told my father this, who's just totally secular, he's pure fucking muggle. And he said when I told him about this, about how demons are beyond time, he said the hair on the back of his neck stood up. It freaked him out. Like, it really fucking freaked him out. And it should freak you out too. But this comes back to the subject. Why magic and modernity? Because you are in various levels of danger if you don't know how to do these things. And it's not just simply about how to do these things, but just being aware of these things. Like I said, being concerned about TV. And finally, I'm going to read from a little book about what magic is. This is Magic Ritual Methods by William Gray. This is the book you should read, because I'm not going to tell you about how to do Gnosis. This guy will talk to you about all the basic stuff. This will teach you how the theories behind why you use certain things in magic. This is important. If you're diligent with this, it'll take you about a year to get really good through all the rituals and get down to this. I haven't done all of it, but it gives you, because I've been doing this for a long time, like not just this incarnation. So I quickly get through it, and as Aleister Crowley says, you don't need to spend 10 pounds on magic books, because once you get the hang of it, you don't need any more, and you just might as well burn all the books. But I love books. I'm not going to burn them. I like reviewing them because I'm a little bit of a dummy. But as William Gray says, definition of magic is largely a matter of individual opinion, since it means so many things to so many people, and there are so many claims made in its name. Fundamentally, it remains what it always was, man's most determined effort to establish an actual working relationship through himself between his inner and outer states of being. By magic, man shows that he is not content to be simply a pawn in the great game, but wants to play on his own account. Man, the meddler, insists on becoming man, the magician, and so learns the rules the hard way. For magic is concerned with doing, while mysticism is concerned with being. So, and then he talks about, the first chapter is about kind of the history of magic. And it's very good, though it's not about actual ritual stuff. That doesn't come until chapter 2. But I think that's a good summary on why you should do magic and modernity. It's never been easier. It's important for your well-being. And I'm going to get into something very deep right here. Talk about eternal return. You know, you're going to find yourself once again in another incarnation in a similar predicament, like finding out about magic for the first time in that incarnation, and you're going to be like, should I do this or not? Should I learn about this magic from this guy, Black Pope Vice, who says he's got the mystical opulence? Well, you should, because if you don't learn it now, or you don't start learning these things now, you'll learn later in the next incarnation. You'll be at more disadvantage. And as I said earlier in the video, this is the easiest Kali Yuga to learn this stuff and break the cycle. Overcome your karma. Alright, we are out of here. Good night.